Welcome back to the Recruitment Aversion. Today we have Matthew joining us for his final instalment on our mini podcast series. We hope you enjoy listening.
This week we're welcoming Matthew back for one final episode where we will be discussing what to look for when deciding what recruitment business to join. So Matthew, for those who haven't heard previous episodes, who are you? What do you do?
Yes, I'm Matthew Arrowsmith. I currently work at Hunter Bond. I head up the learning and development here, as well as the internal recruitment function. Hunter Bond are a fintech recruitment specialist agency. I've worked in a number of different recruitment businesses, some smaller, some larger international companies. I had my own startup business as well. So yeah, got a lot of experience when it comes to different type of recruitment businesses, different markets and industries. And yeah, I think there's a lot that people trying to get into the recruitment industry and trying to join a business need to know about and need to investigate before picking what recruitment company they want to join.
Definitely. So just for background information on me, this is my first and only recruitment business that I've been in. I graduated early this year. And, I was lucky enough that, I think this was my first interview that I'd had and I was sold. And, some people might have thought that it was foolishness taking the first job that I went for. But I'm really happy here and, it seems to be the right fit for me. But
you get lucky sometimes.
You can, and I think I did. I mean, for me, I was sold on everything. I think one of the most important things for me, actually, because I didn't know too much about recruitment. I knew I wanted to get into it. I didn't know all the ins and outs, so I don't think I knew necessarily the things to look out for. But the main thing I was looking out for was company culture. And here we've got, a marketing team who show our company culture through, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. So for me, when I was looking for, places to join, I actually looked through all the social channels and I thought they look like cool people. That looks fun. I want to join that company. But obviously, I understand now, being in recruitment, there are so many different aspects that I probably should have looked at. I mean, I've been lucky enough that I'm happy with those aspects, but that I maybe should have looked at. So, I mean, what are your guys' advice? What sort of things would you pay attention to when looking at recruitment companies?
So this is my second company that I'm working for, Recruitment Rise, and I think I came from quite a big company, so now I've gone a little bit smaller. And I think you want, like you said, company culture. You want to work for a business where they will invest time in you. And I think it's what growth can they bring to you? How can they help you step up to your next game as a recruitment consultant, especially if you're looking to move from your current role? What can that company actually give to you, and how can you work together to build something else for yourself? And I think that's a really big thing to look for in recruitment, because you can get cowboys in recruitment. We know it, we hear about it, we hear stories. So it's definitely trying to find the best one for you.
Yeah, I'm probably a bit more robotic than you guys in a way. When it comes to what recruitment business to join, my head goes, where can I make the most money? The people you work with is really important. I mean, I say that, I joke. The reason I actually had my own rec-to-rec business before I joined Hunter Bond. So my job was to place recruitment consultants into recruitment businesses. I did technology for recruitment for 4 years before that. So after doing rec-to-rec, my business for a couple of years, I wanted to get back into technology. And it was quite fortunate that I knew a ton of recruitment businesses as clients. Hunter Bond were a client of mine. I placed a few people here. I'd worked with many other tech businesses across London. So fortunately for me, I had a bit more of an insight than the stereotypical person trying to get into a recruitment business. And a big reason why I joined Hunter Bond was the people, was the culture. I found everyone was very down to earth, very genuine. It was a lot less egos. It was very collaborative, very supportive. I mean, we're probably a little bit more like the theatre kids in school than, say, the sporty jockey types that you sometimes find in other recruitment environments. I never really vibed with that kind of Wolf of Wall Street salesy recruitment environments. Never really was my type of people. But look, and culture was important. But for me, I always, as somebody getting into recruitment who's money hungry, wants to earn, progress, wants to grow with a business, there's a number of things you really need to look at. And I think this stuff does get neglected because from lack of experience. Like, why would you even think about these sort of things? The one thing I'd definitely look at is success within the team.
Okay.
you want to be asking questions when in an interview about who's the top billers, how much are they billing, how much are they taking home with the commission structure, how old are they, how long have they been in the business, how do they get to where they are. And if there's 30 consultants, what's the average across the business? Because yes, look, you can bill and earn as much as yourself, like ultimately, like, it's in your hands how well you do, but there is a typical based on the whether it be the market, the infrastructure, the resources, the training and support, there's going to be a level of success throughout the business. So if you're joining a company where everybody's not really that high billing, or there's another business that are billing massively, you're probably going to assume you're going to bill more of that business just because you're working around other high performers as well. But an important thing I touched on there was the infrastructure. Here, for instance, we give every recruitment consultant has a LinkedIn recruiter account, which is expensive, and not all recruitment businesses will give recruiter accounts to people. It's such a vital tool to do your job. Your ability to find candidates, source candidates, to make placements is so much more increased. We have a 900,000 candidate database here, which is just extremely valuable. We've got loads of automation tools. We use things like Ebster and Contact Out. There's lots of other, like, all your job boards, as many advert posts as you need. All of these resources help you. It's similar, like if you was going to be a bricklayer or in a construction site, but they didn't give you a toolbox, how are you going to do the job?
Exactly.
And the better tools you have, the better job you're going to do. So it's important that you're asking questions about what are the resources and tools, because I see some people who join startup businesses, and look, there's benefits and negatives about joining very large businesses and joining startups. You join a startup, it explodes, you're one of the first people involved, you're going to be a key member, a director, that kind of thing. It's really exciting. But what clients do they have? What resources do they have? What tools do they have? What infrastructure is there? What training support do they have? You find a lot of this stuff gets neglected, and it's very much left in the lurch, So but I can definitely go off on a lot more tangent unless you guys have anything to touch on.
I mean, I think that's so true, and that's something that I never really thought much into when I was interviewing for this job. They told me that obviously they were starting this new commercial sort of side of things, and they did go into, we can offer you this support, and they turned around to me and they said, what market do you want to recruit in? And that question caught me off guard, because I clearly hadn't done enough research. And I think, I don't know if there are any sort of, articles or things out there that tell you which markets are quite lucrative and things like that. But I had absolutely no idea. I really had no clue. And I think, I don't know if there is a tool out there that, people can turn to when they're first getting into recruitment and interviewing. But I think that is something that's so useful to know, and it's worth having that conversation. And I don't think it looks bad if you turn around to an interviewer and you say, well, which market, where's the money, which market has all the money? Because I think that's a fair question. And I do wish that's something I had asked me, and I'm happy with the market I'm in. I think that there's good money in it, but it could have gone very wrong. I could have ended up by not asking that question. I was
about to drop a market there, which is a bad market, but thinking it could be people listening now in that market, so I won't.
Don't drop the market. I was going to say something as well. I was like, no, let's not say it.
There's three things when you're thinking about what market to get into, what specialism. There's three things you need to think of. How lucrative is it? Now, in terms of your commission depends on the deal size. The deal size depends on the annual salary of the candidate that you place. So the bigger the salary, the bigger the deal size. So you typically want to get into a market where the deal sizes are quite big. You can get into markets where the salaries are lower, but it's more quantity. So you end up doing more deals and whatnot. And that's a lot more fast paced. That's just a different kind. Like what we do here at Hunter Bond, for instance, is very high end, quality over quantity, for instance. It's just a different ball game. The other thing you want to look for is longevity and growth. So if you're going to join, I don't know, oil and gas right now, with renewable energies and fossil fuels not being so keen to be used by the by the world, probably not the most growth market to get into. So we do technology, financial service technology, always growing, always changing, always a demand, always a need, only going to get bigger. COVID was a great example. We had no problems during COVID at all. We was just as busy as it was before that, because technology could work remotely easily, and financial services, money always turns. It's essential worker. If you did hospitality recruitment, for instance, bless you, like during COVID, you could be the best recruitment agency in the world, but you're going to go under because there's no restaurants open. There's nothing you can kind of do about it. So pandemic proof, recession proof is quite important, but good growth, good lucrative market is really important. And something that you have a little bit of an interest in.
Yeah, you need to be able to talk about it comfortably. You don't want to talk to a client or a candidate and not know what you're talking about or not care about it. When you're passionate about your industry, I feel like a candidate or client can tell.
I mean, you can either be an actor, which you can fake tonality. I mean, every job I've ever worked is the best job in the world, standard. Most desirable, best job in the world. But I've worked with some clients, for instance, who I'm a bit of a gamer, and I remember I worked with a client who used to host like online e-game tournaments and stuff like that. I used to buzz about talking about them. I used to go down to the offices, and they had like whole gaming setups. I used to love it. But if you're doing a market that you just have zero interest in, it's slow. It's the money might be good, which is enough, but I mean, you also got to enjoy a little bit what you do. That passion's got to come across, hasn't it?
And I think the whole package as well, you need to know. I mean, we as a company, we're an office-based recruitment company. We don't really, we have a couple of people who might work from home every now and then, but we are office-based. But I think looking at the whole package, the working arrangements, things like that, because there are some recruiters who prefer to work from home. And I think, I think it's more rare to find recruiter companies that will say, you can work from home most of the time, or you can work from home 3 days a week, because I do think, it's similar to sales jobs. I think you need to be in that environment where you're around people. But again, it's about what works for you, because we do have someone in the office who, she's got kids, and the way her life is, it just makes sense for her to work at home. So she does most of the time. But I think, going into a company, it's important to find out what they offer, what their flexibility is like, holidays that they offer, even though, we have mentioned in previous episodes that, we don't necessarily
avoid
take
that
it
question.
all.
Do not ask how much holiday you get in a recruitment interview.
Yeah.
That is not going to go well for you.
Yeah.
Don't ask what the working hours is. Don't ask what, you can find this information out somehow.
Find
just
it
not,
out,
not,
but
not in the interview.
To it.
When you get the offer,
Definitely.
maybe ask them sort of questions. But
or like a few weeks in. Sorry, what was the holiday package again?
What's the working hours? You've been here a month. It's like I mean,
and I think incentives as well. I think we do quite a lot of like end of the month days out and quarterly days out. Some people, they're not really fussed by it, but there's a few people in the office who don't really like to go to these things, so they don't really care. But some people, they live for that. They like that sort of culture. They like to feel like they're being rewarded at the end of a month or a quarter. So again, that's something to look at. I
always find, and it's not necessarily something to look out for, is to acknowledge when it's not being spoken about. So when you're in an interview, and like I do all the first stage interviews here at Hunter Bond, I go into absolute transparency and details about what we offer and all of our sales and everything. Basically, I go thoroughly through the commission structure, all the incentive, how progression works, and everything like that. I speak to people who've been to interviews and they don't even know what the commission structures are in some of these places. Like, do they not tell you? It's like, no. If they're not telling you what the commission structure is, it's probably not very good. You'd use that as a sell if it's good. So I'd want to, you guys, when you're interviewing, you need to be asking, how does the commission work? And writing that down in detail. You then want to be asking, well, what is the first year target in terms of billings? And then working out what your opportunity to earn is based off of the billings and compared with their commission structure. Because as we said, the basic salary at Hunter Bond specifically isn't particularly high. You can probably normally get a couple of grand more by going to another recruitment agency. In terms of our commission structure and our setup, if you bill, which you expect to do, you will earn tens of thousands of more a year here compared to other commission structures. And it's the people who accept a couple grand more on their basic salary for the sake of tens of thousands of pounds. Like, you've just not looked at the big picture.
Absolutely not.
They're not the people we want. We want people that back themselves to do deals. The commission basic's not good in recruitment. So you need to understand, how does the commission work? What's the potential earning potential, and actually working out them numbers yourself.
Definitely.
And if they're not telling you about incentives, they're not telling you about culture, not telling you about all of this, then it's a red flag.
Yeah, 100%. I would say so. And I think in your interview, definitely ask what the expectations are within your first 3 months, within your first 6 months. Go through everything in detail. Ask what systems they use, how do they source, how are they finding candidates. Talk through everything and definitely show an interest. I think sometimes I've sat in a lot of recruitment interviews, and they don't talk about stuff like that. And when you're interviewing a recruiter and they say, okay, well, what do you expect in 3 months from me? What do you expect in 6 months? We then know you're engaged. We know that you want to develop. We know that you want to progress. And I think it's a great question to ask.
it shows a lot of sharpness as well, in my opinion. And that's a key trait that I look for is, yes, look, people can sell, but like, we need sharp, switched on people. And it's like intelligent questions, it's like, okay, it's like you can see that they've actually got a thought process. And it's like, right, so here's how would it work when I start? What's the training program? Like, how detailed is the training program? What's my expectations after that? How do the top performers? I love the question. People always ask me in the interview, it's basically the podcast we just did before this. You can check this out if you go back to the previous one. What can I do in the first 6 months to establish myself and do well? What do you look for in a good recruiter? And then I tell them what I look for in a good recruiter, and then they give me examples of why they have them skills and traits. Like, that's just bright, switched on. Asking questions is not only a way for you to find out more about the company, but asking questions is also telling the interviewer a little bit about your mindset and where you're at as well. So it's really important you ask questions for both of them aspects.
Yeah. And I think it's important as well to find out what their typical career progression is going to look like, because it means you're thinking long term. You're thinking, right, I want to be a senior consultant in X amount of years. What have I got to do to get there in your company? Do you just wait for a set amount of time, or do I have to achieve a certain amount of things? Things like that. Is there scope for me to potentially get, a managerial position after a few years? It's about asking those long-term questions that shows that you're picturing yourself in that company for the long term. You're picturing, like, I want to make a career out of your company. Can you help me get that career that I want?
Definitely. And with career progression, it's worth knowing, like Hunter Bond's career progression, for instance, is purely based on your performance. So we have a flowchart. It tells you how much revenue to generate in a certain amount of time, and you'll get a promotion. Some of it, some people's, like some company promotions, is very discretionary. It's whether the founders like you or think you deserve a promotion. And then that can become pretty like, having to buddy up with the founders and stuff, and internal
no matter
politics.
how hard you work, you're not going to get it.
And you get overseen if you're a bit of a pushover. Whereas, like, if it's clear progression based on performance, then it's a real meritocracy, and that's what you want to get into an environment where there's a natural meritocracy. One thing you can look at as well is Glassdoor, for anyone who doesn't know. So you can go to Glassdoor, where it's basically like a TripAdvisor for employers. So Hunter Bond have a 4.5 star Glassdoor rating, which is pretty unheard of in the recruitment industry, if I'm honest. So really good. It's basically people who used to work there. Again, you got to take it with a pinch of salt, I'd imagine. Like most people who are leaving a review on Glassdoor, I mean, they probably just didn't work out in recruitment and are a bit bitter about it. But you will get a good perception on, whether it be what the good stuff is and the culture and stuff like that. You want to avoid like revolving door companies as well. So if you find there's high turnover, you want to join a company that will actually give you the time, resource and ability to do the job. And if you find there's high turnover, there's reasons for that obviously as well. But yeah, I think to sum it up, size of business is good. You want to see good growth in the business. So if their profits, the billers have constantly been growing. Awards is good as well. So companies will win awards for best. Hunter Bond won an award for best recruitment company to work for at the Recruiting Investing Awards. Best banking agency, best whatever it might be. We actually won the award for best recruitment company for candidate care, which came from testimonials of candidates we've worked with from the transparent, high integrity service and quality service we provide candidates. So yeah, it's very very happy to see that kind of stuff. The market's important. High growth, lucrative market space, something you're interested in. Good resources, good tools, database, everything for you to do your job. Training's really important. There's some recruitment companies that will hire somebody. You'll sit next to a team leader for half a day. They'll tell you some stuff and just stick you on the phones. When I first got into recruitment, I had a 3-week induction classroom-based training. Here at Hunter Bond, we do a full 2-week induction, combination of classroom, on-the-job learning, regular one-to-ones afterwards. Team leaders provide training support. I run 1-hour company-wide training sessions every week. It's really important that you're embedded with some form of induction, because recruitment, there's so much to recruitment, and you're not going to be a recruitment master after 2 weeks of induction training, but and be aware that learn on the job and stuff like that. But culture was a big thing you guys pressed on, wasn't it?
Definitely.
How do you find that then? So just looking at the social medias and
social medias, and I think going in to meet them a few times. I know when I got the job, especially here, I came in quite a few times. I went for a few meals. You want to work with a company you actually enjoy. You want to be around people that can motivate you. And like you said, you want to see who the top billers are and think, I want to be like them.
You'll suss out the environment fairly quickly as well. When you walk through the office, You can get a gauge for the age groups, the type. I mean, judge a book by its cover a little bit, but the types of people, how active it is, how fast paced, how smiling people are, maybe. Or not.
True.
How welcoming
if everyone's crying at their desk.
Yeah, you can hear sobbing in a cupboard. Maybe a red flag. But yeah, definitely go to the offices, and also like it's just good to see the commute and stuff and meet people face to face. We've hired people just based off of Zoom interviews. I'm always a bit like, do they not want to see the offices and meet face to face? But some people aren't too bothered about that sort of thing. But yeah, top billers, and as you say, just understand what the expectations are. Ask good questions.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's the last thing I want to touch on. Just take your time. You might feel like, if you're working for a rec to rec, they might be pressuring you to accept a job, and you might have other interviews lined up, or the company saying, "Oh, here's your offer. You've got until Friday to make a decision." Look, if they like you, they'll wait for you. Don't buy into all of that pressure.
Recruiters putting pressure on you. Yeah.
And you know what? You as future recruiters will be doing the exact same thing to your candidates in the very near future. It's part of the game. It's part of the game. And it's funny, I think if you do work with a recruiter to get into recruitment, once you do recruit for 6 months, you'll be thinking back on how your recruiter worked with you. And there'll be a few things around interview prep and them stand on top of you and you counter off all this, and you'll be thinking, you can suss whether you worked with a good recruiter or not, really, can't you? After a little while, but yeah, take your time, explore the market, use rec to recs as well. I advise using rec to recs. It's similar, as I say, I'm sure most of you never heard of Hunter Bonds before I check us out on LinkedIn. We've got over 200,000 followers. But yeah, and rec to recs will have a wide knowledge and understanding of what you're like, your personality, what you're looking for, and hopefully present you with relevant role opportunities that you've maybe never heard of as well. So.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think that's such good useful advice. I wish I'd had a podcast like this. I could have listened before I joined.
Similar to yourself, I got really lucky with my first company I joined, because it was pretty much the first recruitment interview I had, and it was a really good setup. It was a Darwin recruitment that was in Billericay. I'll give them a shout out. But
give them a shout out.
Might as well, yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for meeting with us, Matthew. We really appreciate you coming in for the past couple of weeks on these episodes. We've personally taken away a lot from this anyway, but hopefully our listeners have as well. So that it's been great having you on. Thanks, Matthew.
Right. Thank you so much for having me anytime.
Thank you. Thanks.
So that brings us to the end of our guest episodes with Matthew Arrowsmith from Hunter Bond. It's been great having Matthew on the podcast for the past 2 weeks. Join us next week for our last episode of the year, which will be a Christmas special. See you then.